All right, hey everybody, TG here. Good morning. It is the first day of September, so I hope everybody's having a good time with that one. We are seeing some strength in the market, so this is pretty nice, especially since the IWM and the IBD 50 have been starting to take off. So we'll go and talk about that and see some of the things we have. Also, anybody who is out there, if you guys have questions about any particular tickers, go ahead and start throwing them in the chat. That way I can start running through them and actually have a place to go. Otherwise, I'll show you some things that are on my list and what we're looking at. We're up running on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope right now. I see that we've got people in all of those. For those of you who are looking for Facebook, you're probably already hearing this, but basically go to Simpler Trading's Facebook page and you should see that we're live there. All right, and then anybody who doesn't know me and would like to learn more about me and more information, just come over here to profitpilot.com. It's profit-pilot.com. And we've got all sorts of information around there, and we are continually improving this and putting more and more content on here. Eventually, I'd like to put some more screen grabs and stuff. So that should be interesting. Joe, thanks for the heads up, letting me know that we are all good as far as the audio and visual. Let me kind of tilt this one down a little bit too for everybody, make that better. Okay, so let's dive into it. So basically, ever since we had the Jackson Hole Symposium, which if we look here, let's see this one right here. This is what the last thing was that I wrote about, talking about that Jerome Powell had his little speech, which really wasn't a speech. It was just a written, memo, whatever, that he usually does. And, investors, hedge fund managers, all that, they were kind of looking for whatever Jerome Powell was going to be saying. And he's pretty dovish. He's been dovish. They're going to be dovish. They're going to continue to be dovish. All that kind of stuff. And mostly what we got was a little bit of a pullback going that Thursday into Friday last week. And that is something I've been looking for. I've been communicating to the Options Room subscribers and to the Moxie subscribers that I'm like, hey, cool that we've got this move up, but I'm looking for a pullback. And once that confirms, then we should be good. And that pullback was right through here. There was a big gap between price and the hourly 50. And we had price pull back to basically the hourly 50. I was just kind of looking for anything. I was like, we just need to have price come back down a little bit, find some support, and then move back up. And we got that Thursday pullback, Friday moving up. And so yesterday, there can be some shenanigans at the end of the month and into the beginning of the month. We had a little bit of a pullback yesterday. That made sense because if you look here on the S&P for the hourly, we had price go outside of the third ATR and off of the 8 EMA on the hourly chart. So that was a little bit overbought, and we got to pull back. And today it's pretty much just going sideways. I think this looks fine. We again see that price is off the 8 EMA, and you can see that like we had it before. Price is off the 8 EMA on the daily chart. Gap between price and the hourly 50, a little bit of a gap between price and the hourly 50. Okay, fine. Maybe we'll get a pullback. Maybe we'll just go sideways into strength. But basically speaking, I think we're just going to grind up. It's been challenging to read the SPY because it just kind of goes up. It's like you grind for a little bit and you pull back, and you grind for a little bit and you pull back. You grind for a little bit, you pull back, and here we are grinding for a little bit. So until we see the next pullback start to shape up again, we're basically just going to be grinding up. That's what I'm seeing for the S&P. Now, if we get the NASDAQ, kind of the same thing. For the NASDAQ on the daily, this was pretty clear. We had a really big gap between price and the daily 50, and I'd been watching that for quite some time, and what we could see, and this is really the beauty of the Moxie indicator here, is right in through here, we could see that price was trying to get over the hourly 50, but if you look at the Moxie indicator, you'll notice that the Moxie indicator kept trending down, even though price was basically trying to move up or was trying to hang out in this range right here, but the Moxie indicator kept making lower and lower and lower highs, and the whole time the Moxie indicator was below zero. So that meant all of these were inverse trampoline moves. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And ultimately what that did is that allowed price to then finally get a little bit underneath the hourly 50. And all the while, the NASDAQ was just looking for a pullback to touch the daily 50. So it filled that gap from all the way back here, all that space. Price finally came back and touched that support. Boom, off to the races. And then as with the S&P, the only kind of pullback that I was looking for confirmation of this move up was right there. That was that pullback Thursday into Friday for the Jerome Powell Jackson Hole Symposium. And you can see there's a little double bottom right there as it did that and back off to the races. Now, sure enough, the NASDAQ is up here at the third ATR. Yep, that's usually an outer boundary. And we are getting away from the hourly, for the daily 8 EMA, all true. But again, I would not be surprised if we kind of see it grind up here. So I'm not really picturing that there's going to be some stiff or significant pullback because of this. I imagine that we're probably going to be more inclined to just kind of grind up a little bit or grind up a little bit, something like that. Yes, there will be pullbacks, but overall, this market's in an uptrend. It just bounced off of the daily 50 a week and a half ago. We're reaching new all-time highs. Things look pretty good out there. Now, let me show you one other thing that's kind of telling me that I think that the market is starting to get better participation. One thing that we've been discussing for quite some time, probably around 6 months, is that the breadth of the market has been really declining, very poor breadth. So what that means is fewer stocks were holding the markets up. We kind of make some jokes, but basically, the S&P or the NASDAQ have been being held up by 5 stocks, while everything else was crumbling underneath. And that's true. And we look at the IWM, and we could see that basically for 6 months, price has not been going anywhere. It's just been going sideways. To put that into a larger context, we look at this and say, well, what has it actually been doing? There was a giant gap between price and the monthly 10 SMA and the weekly 50 SMA, and basically price for the last 6 months has been going sideways into that support. Now, we look at where it is, we see price is now bouncing off of the monthly 10 and basically did a double bottom near the weekly 50. This looks pretty good to me, and the fact that, if we come over here, and the fact that the IWM is now back over the daily 50, this is looking good. Something has changed. It looks all right, There's now strength. It looks to me like there's more participation across the market. And so yes, seeing that the S&P and the NASDAQ, maybe they're just a little bit extended, but if the IWM starts to get into gear and starts to participate, then the rest of the market should start taking off and we should start seeing better breadth across the board, which is true based on my trading because I'm pretty loaded up on the market and what I'm seeing. So things are working out. They're warming up. It's going to take a little bit more time until we really get into this. Do keep in mind that September is a historically or seasonally bearish month, but we've seen stranger things out there, and I think it can be both things. I think one, the indexes kind of move up and then maybe pull back, and that would be that would suffice the bearishness of September. But underneath the surface, I think things can start building, can start formulating some support. And I'm sure some of you guys are going to be asking me questions about some of these names that I'm starting to see wake up and have stopped going down, and if they can start getting on top of these moving averages and use these moving averages for support, then we should start seeing some more strength going into the end of the year. So let me kind of take a look and see what you guys are looking at, and so we can talk about that. But hey, yeah, great to see everybody. We got a lot of names in here. Yes, MVIS is one that is on my watch list. Remember, I always like to check in with the monthly and the weekly timeframes to get a larger picture of what's going on so that we're not down there in the weeds and can't see what's actually out there. MVIS looking pretty good. We've got price coming into the monthly 10. Generally speaking, we've got a level and probably the weekly 50 coming up. The stochastic, so I saw somebody was asking me, how do I use the stochastic with Moxie? Well, you can see right here. So TechP, basically the only time I use the stochastic is for buying opportunities. I don't use it to sell. I don't use it to show me, upper areas. I really only use it to show and pinpoint bottoms when the stochastic is kind of in the oversold area. So you can see that here on the weekly for MVIS. The other thing I'm starting to see here is that we appear, right here on the daily chart, appear to have a double bottom. And then it looks to me like price is trying to get past the daily 50, whereas last time it could not get past the daily 50. So if it can get past the daily 50, then it should be on its way. And if you look here, this is looking pretty nice on the hourly chart as we have price flagging sideways into the hourly 50. We have the hourly 50 over the 200, and the 200 was down like this, but now you can see the 200's flat, and so if this starts to work out, we should start seeing the hourly 200 angle up. Moxie indicators above 0. The Moxie indicator on the daily chart is still lagging, so I think that there would be kind of a first move versus second move. So imagine price gets to up over the daily 50. Well, eventually it's probably going to need to come back down, test an uptrending daily 50, and that can take some time, and maybe at that point the Moxie indicator will be closer or at 0. And yeah, there's a squeeze here too. So this does look interesting for kind of a first pop up like that. And then Joe also asking about race. Pretty much race looks fine. I mean, this thing looks really good. If we look here at the monthly and weekly, we can see that price has been flagging sideways into the monthly 10 right there. And on the weekly, it's been holding the weekly 50 pretty darn well. And then we had this move up here, which if you look left was running right into previous resistance. So it's like, okay, you don't want to go buy that. That's a little up there, and let's wait for a pullback and let's see price hold that pullback. Well, it sure looks to me like here on the weekly time frame we got that pullback into support, and it should be moving up from there. And if we look down here on the daily and the hourly, what we can see is going back a little ways. Notice how every time price came into the daily 50, it did not hold it. The only time it started to hold the daily 50 was right here. Now there was earnings, so I don't like to trade earnings. And then you can see here just a week or so ago, we got price pulled back into the daily 50 again. And the Moxie indicator is above 0 this time, so that looks pretty good. And so far, as long as price can continue to hold the hourly 50 and through here, then we should start seeing some strength on this. And so race, Ferrari, looking pretty good there as well. Imran, good to see you out here. Appreciate seeing all you guys as well. Let's see, WBA, that's Walgreen Boots Alliance. Yeah, see, like this, we're starting to see some things wake up. Now, the other thing, I've been seeing this for quite a few stocks. I've been seeing the cruise lines do this, the airlines do this, and I guess Walgreens is doing this. We've had price move up over the monthly 10, and if you see price move up over the weekly 50, and they've had good moves, but then they kind of started to fall apart. In fact, let's see, this thing started to peak out, April, and then it started to fall down late May, early June, and then it had a pretty big drop. And if you were maybe too far into the weeds, you might be looking at that and saying, oh, hey, that's not good, like what's going on? But if you zoom out and you look at the bigger picture, you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Like, look, price is just pulled back to an uptrending monthly 10 and to an uptrending weekly 50. Like, okay, now that makes sense. We've got price that crossed over the moving average, then pulled back into the moving average. You see it crossed over the moving average and then pulled back into the moving average. So that's looking pretty good. And if we look here on the lower time frames, you can kind of see the same thing. Hey, look, it crossed over the daily 200 and then pulled back into the daily 200. And you can see just kind of like what I was showing with MVIS, we're trying to see if Walgreens WBA can get past the daily 50, which it is, and it's doing it in very much the same manner as I was showing on MVIS, where price is bouncing off of the hourly 200 and got over the hourly 50 and started to pop up. Now, for those of you who aren't necessarily familiar with me or Moxie, there's actually a pretty good example of a couple good trades here. So the Moxie indicator is a momentum-based indicator, and a lot of times it can show you what's going on inside of price that you can't necessarily see with price. And one of those setups that I like to use is called a trampoline move. And the trampoline move is a high pressure, high buoyancy type setup. Like imagine you're trying to take a beach ball and you're trying to push it underneath water. That thing doesn't want to stay underneath, right? So imagine that that's price right here trying to get pushed underneath the 50 SMA, but the Moxie indicator is the water. And the fact that the Moxie indicator is above 0 is saying that it's like it wants to go up. And so when price dips below the 50 with the Moxie indicator above 0, that's a trampoline move. It's like somebody, like coming in, jumping on a trampoline and getting shot up. Look at that. And you can see we got the same thing here. Jumping onto that trampoline and gets shot up because the Moxie indicator is still above 0 despite price being below the 50. So you could trade out there by yourself with just moving averages and stuff, but if you have the little help of the Moxie indicator telling you that, hey, generally, price and momentum really want to go up, so this anomaly of price getting underneath the moving average is actually going to be a good setup. That's something to really leverage the Moxie indicator with and for. Let's see, TechP. So why do I use the slow stochastic on top of Moxie? You have Moxie, but you don't know about this. It's really just kind of a, let me kind of throw up over here. It's a, just another little, it's a little layer. I don't rely on it. It's just another extra little factor to help tell me, pinpoint when and why that the price action is oversold. So if we look, I like to really kind of use it on the daily time frame. So if we maximize this, what we can see is, hey, right there, price pulled back into the daily 50, and notice that the stochastic is all the way down at the oversold area. So that was helpful. Notice again, price pulled back into the daily 50, stochastic was down in the oversold area. Okay, there's a good bounce. You can see here back at the daily 50 and stochastic was low and it bounced. And even through here, you could start to see that price was starting to get oversold. The stochastic had been down for quite some time. Okay, something's starting to happen there. So so for an example like this on the daily chart right and through here, where the Moxie indicator isn't helping me on the daily chart, maybe it could help me on the hourly. I probably could see it on the hourly. But on the daily chart, when there's nothing else that can kind of really help me, the stochastic is starting to tell me, this thing's starting to get pretty oversold. And so if you're short, that might help you reconsider staying short, like maybe you should get out. Or if you're trying to figure out when is this going to be oversold and price might start to reverse, the stochastic is fairly good for that. As I said, it's an ancillary, it's a secondary indicator for me, but I find that it pairs pretty well with the Moxie indicator and really just helps me kind of help pinpoint some of the bottoms out there, some of the lows. So let's see, DD, I might just be staying away from something like this. Some of the Chinese stocks, I know they've gotten beaten up for some time. They do seem like they are coming back. A lot of the Chinese stocks look like they've been pushed down so far that people are actually starting to find that they are good bargains, and they do look like they're starting to come back up. DD, I'll just kind of point out what I'm looking at. There's a double bottom here, and then price has bounced off of the hourly 50, and that made for an elf shoe. Here's a leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, there's the ball of the foot, there's the elf toe. So if you're interested in something like this, okay, sure, it looks like it's starting to wake up again. And the fact that it is starting to hold these moving averages, like the hourly 50, and actually get over the hourly 200, cool. It's making progress. Just be careful, just understand what you're working with, that the Chinese stocks have been under pressure for quite some time, and see if that's something that you want to deal with. Jeremy, there's a name I haven't seen in a while. Let's see, NIU and NIO. Yeah, I've been watching these two. You can see I put a little paper trade on NIU. I've been watching these stocks for a while to see what they're going to do. And so in through here, I could see that price was coming into the hourly 50 and that there was probably going to be a bounce. And then, just like I was talking about Walgreens and whatnot, the trampoline move, here you go. Here is price below the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator above 0. That's a trampoline move. And what you can see, it's like you jump on a trampoline. You just jump into it and then boom, shoots you up. And on the daily chart, what we could first see before, and this is what I love teaching about, guys. So if you guys notice this, I'll give you a little bit of a hint for some of the things I teach. Notice that before price ever started setting up, you notice how the 8 crossed over the 21 right there? Kind of nice, right? What's the definition of trend? Fast moving average over the slow moving average. And now you got price getting over the daily 50. So yeah, what I'm seeing are things finally starting to come back alive. Today's a pretty good day. I think yesterday actually yesterday was a bit of a pullback, but then Monday was a pretty good day. So yeah, NIU, NIO, and if we look here on the higher time frame with NIO, probably what we're going to be getting is here's a double bottom. So I think that's what's going to be happening. And then if we look at the stochastic, just noting that the stochastic is coming down into the oversold area. It hasn't changed, it hasn't crossed over yet, but it's getting down there. So that just might be a good heads up. And you can see here on the daily and the hourly, it's still got some work to do, but I've got a couple people in my Moxie room asking me about this. I'm like, yeah, I think that they're going to start working. They're trying. And you can see that here's the double bottom, and here's the positive divergence on the Moxie indicator. And it's trying to like leg, heel, arch the foot. It's trying to do the completion of the elf shoe pattern on the daily chart. So I do think they're working. I think that they need some time. They're not totally set up yet, but I think that they are trying. So that's kind of my take on this stuff. Yeah, Imran, 54% of stocks are above their 50-day moving average. That compares to what, a week ago, where it was about 34% of stocks were above their 50-day moving average. So things are starting to pick up and work out, and I'm happy to see that. Let's see, A, B, and B, yeah, looking pretty decent. Look at the higher time frames. Look at this. So leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, looking for the elf toe. And what you could see was previously price could not get past the weekly 21, but now it is. So that's making some progress. And if we look down here on the daily and the hourly, what do we got? Well, we got the Moxie price trigger. We have price pulling back and then starting to move up. And we have price running into the hourly 50. So yeah, Airbnb looks like it's doing all right. Even Dash, I kind of look at Airbnb and Dash as kind of being similar. And you can see that Dash has been holding the daily 50 right there. And it's been a little bit choppy, a little bit messy on the hourly chart. But if it can start to hold the hourly 50 here with the Moxie price trigger, then we could be off to something. Like this could be working. And generally, I would say that Dash is looking fairly strong because honestly, all it's been doing is chopping sideways into support. And if it can continue to do that, then it should be good. So yeah, I look at Dash as well. It's looking pretty good. Let's see, then TTWO. Yeah, not too much there. Looks like it's still working some stuff out. So I don't see too much on the higher time frames. On the lower time frame, about the only thing I could say is if this is going to work out, leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, looking for that elf toe. And there is a trampoline move right there. If we kind of look through here, there is a trampoline move right there. So price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0, along with a double bottom and positive divergence. So who was that? Yeah, Showtime. You might be into something. That might be working. So if price can hold the 15-minute 50 right there, and the Moxie indicator is above 0, and if it can stay above the hourly 50 and start to push up over the hourly 200, it's got some work to do, but it looks like there might be the beginning of some move. Just keep in mind that we don't know if this is going to be the move because price is still dealing with a downtrending hourly 200. So it's got some work. You might catch a move here, but it's not in an uptrend yet, and it hasn't confirmed an uptrend yet. So there are going to be a couple up moves and then some down moves as price tries to get over these moving averages and then tries to turn those moving averages into an uptrend. So give that one probably a little bit of time. Let's see, ADP, a little bit of a pullback. Let's look at the higher time frame. Yeah, ADP just kind of got overbought. You see how here it just kind of went up and up and up and up and then jumped and then pulled back? You can see that there's a little gap between price and the 8 EMA on the weekly, and then you can see price basically hit the third ATR up there, so a little overbought. And if you look here on the monthly, pretty big gap between price and the monthly 10. So that could be an issue for now. Initially, if this thing keeps pulling back, look for the weekly 21 to probably be support if it wants to go there. So I don't know if that works for you or not, but if price keeps wanting to pull back, generally speaking, the weekly 21 is going to be the first line of support, and price will most likely bounce off of the weekly 21 if it gets there, if it needs to do that. In through here, you could actually see here's some negative divergence. So price kept trying to go up. Moxie indicator was down. Oh, here's a big one. Look here on the hourly chart. You see here how you had a double top on the Moxie indicator despite the higher high? This is how you use the Moxie indicator. This is when you start seeing something like that, you're like, huh, what's it trying to communicate to me? It's trying to tell you that price is going higher and higher and higher on less and less energy. That's a form of negative divergence. You need to look at something like that. And then once this thing started to pull back, let me zoom in on this. Once this started to pull back, look, price ran right into the underside of the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator was below 0. That's telling you it's negative at this point. And then you could actually see here's an inverse trampoline move. An inverse trampoline move, just the opposite of a trampoline move, right? Sorry, guys. Hang on a second. All right, we got somebody who arrived early, but inverse trampoline move is when price is over the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator is below 0. So we continue to see that as a downward negative movement. So, yeah. All right, we kind of got some of those. Okay, we got a couple for Netflix. I'll do a couple more minutes and then I got to get going. So Netflix, I've been talking about this to my subscribers for a few weeks, and then because the market was going down and looking kind of rough, I actually missed it, and then I heard that some hedge fund was picking it up. But for this, I was actually looking right around here, price coming into the weekly 50. This was looking pretty good, and you could see here that price was at the monthly 10. So those were looking pretty good to me. And on the lower time frames, what I was looking at was this. So you can see here's a double bottom. Here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, ball of the foot, there's your elf toe. How's that work out, right? That's pretty nice. And keep in mind that all of this price kind of was digging below an uptrending daily 50. The Moxie indicator, it was close, but the Moxie indicator was still above zero. So that was a daily trampoline move. So think about it, trampoline move. It's like you jump onto a trampoline, you get shot back up like that. There were squeezes, the stochastic was at the low. This thing was setting up pretty well. And you could even see here on the hourly chart, you got price at this level. Look at the Moxie indicator trending up the entire time. And you want to talk about good timing for the Moxie indicator? Right there. There's your Moxie price trigger, and it took off. So as I said, I did kind of miss this. I'm not too bummed because Netflix is a slower stock, because I don't really trade options. So, this thing's only gone up 10%. I mean, that's a healthy move, especially for a big stock like this. I bet you anything there will be another opportunity. But you know what? I saw this started to move up. Some of the other stocks started to move up, and we're in some pretty good ones. So, we'll just look for another opportunity to get into something like that one. All right. So Ashit, as far as how do you see what percentage of stocks are above the 50-day, you go, stockcharts.com is pretty good for that. You just need to find some place that shows you different indicators, and you can search or scan for that kind of thing. Maybe some of the other users in here in the room here can kind of help you figure out where to do that. So yeah, then Tesla, maybe we'll wrap up on that one. So yeah, Tesla's looking pretty good too. I like the ARK ETFs. I know they've got a lot of controversy around them, but ARK K, one of its biggest holdings is Tesla. There's ARK F. A lot of these ARK ETFs are looking pretty similar to each other, but they're doing the same thing and they're doing the stuff that I like. So if we look at this with Tesla, you can see that Tesla has been holding very, very nicely over the monthly 10. So that looks good. And you look here on the weekly, price has been holding the weekly 50 pretty darn well. And if we zoom in on this, open this up a little bit like there, what we can see is that price held the weekly 50 here, got a little bit of a gap, so overbought, and then pulled back here nicely, and that's where we started to get in once we could tell that pullback was starting to hold. And if we look here at the daily and the hourly, right in through here, we first saw price hold the daily 50, and then it moved up, and things were looking a little bit funky. I was really trying to consider buying something, Tesla up and through there, but I was a little bit concerned about this gap between price and the daily 50. And sure enough, they got some, I guess, bad news for their self-driving for a little bit. But what it did is it came back down to the daily 50 and held. Okay, so I look for the next opportunity to get in, and this thing handed it to us on a silver platter. It was amazing. We saw price get up over a downtrending hourly 50, so okay, it's over the moving average, but do you guys actually see how this is identical to this? If you guys see that, if you get what I'm talking about, then you'll understand why I usually wait for the pullback, and when I see them, then I jump in. If you guys don't get it, come join me over at Moxie and kind of check out the stuff that I teach and show this. But this pullback into the hourly 50, we bought it the next day when it popped back up, and it's been doing great. So I think Tesla should be well on its way, and I'm pretty interested in. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, John, thanks for posting stuff for Ashit as far as helping out. This is a good community. We're out here all trying to make money. We're trying to be successful, and we're trying to do well for ourselves. So, help each other out. I love seeing that kind of stuff. We've got good traders out there. But that's pretty much my time. I got to get going. As I said, I have somebody at the door that we're going to go work with. And until next week, you guys take care. And if you have any other questions about me to find out, come over here to profitpilot.com, and we'll see you there. All right, everyone. Take care.